afternoon, everybody. Welcome to season 9, episode 45, overall 485 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac products as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Pomey sent you, or email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. And Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969. Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show is also sponsored by Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph, Ontario. Check out their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. Try a Welly on, and please remember to drink responsibly. And Wellington Brewery is celebrating their 40th anniversary as Canada's local oldest craft brewery as well. So thank you to Wellington Brewery and Barry Cullen Chevrolet for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. I hope everyone is doing well on this Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. And I'm looking forward to my guest today. This is her second appearance on my show. Her first one was April 30th, 2024. And we're going to just bring her on shortly. And her name is Marisa Tigney. She's a media personality and sports radio anchor for Sports Rap Radio. And she's also a lifelong fan of the Detroit Lions. So we're going to talk to Marisa about the Detroit Lions and about Super Bowl 59 coming up between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Good morning. How are you?
I am excellent. Good morning.
How's everything in Texas right now?
Texas is good. Weather-wise, it has gone through its share of snow and ice that people don't know how to handle it, because originally I'm from Michigan. I'm from the north, so I know how things are handled with salt trucks and shovels and all of that. It seems to be a rarity if you can find one here. But the snow has melted. It's just got the chill in the air, and soon we will have a few days of rain. So not too bad.
A lot going on in Texas right now, not just the weather, but the Dallas Cowboys hiring their new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, as well. Is he the son of Marty Schottenheimer?
He is. And
Okay.
as you can hear in the air, Chris, of many Cowboy fans angry, upset, confused on this selection. There's been narratives of, Jerry Jones what's a yes man and someone that's not going to steal the spotlight and everything there. But the Jones family sees something in Brian Schottenheimer for them to select him, to promote him up to head coach after the departure of Mike McCarthy. I mean, here's the thing, and I said this to a couple Dallas Cowboy fans. When you take that big risk when you are hiring someone who has never been a head coach, right? We've seen the successes, we've seen the failures of it. I mean, we've seen it in the Texans where it worked out. We saw it in Detroit for Dan Campbell when it worked out. And then, we unfortunately have seen the failures of it. Just recently, Gerard Mayo of the Patriots, one and done.
He got a raw deal. He got a raw deal in New England, in my opinion.
I believe so too. Because you were stepping in some ginormous shoes of the legendary Bill Belichick and everything that he has done for that New England Patriots. I mean, champions upon championships upon championships, and then you're getting someone who is brand new to the regime, and it just did not work out for him. So Cowboys fans have got to think of it somewhat in that aspect, but I can see why that they are upset, because they're looking for a brand name. They're looking for someone who had experience. Some of them were hoping for Mike Vrabel to come along and, be the sweeping savior of the Dallas Cowboys. The problem that I see is that Jerry Jones wants to have his hand in everything. So that coach that is going to come in, again, being that yes man, but hopefully he lets Brian Schottenheimer coach like he's supposed to, like run his coaching team, run the team, come up with plays, come up with better successes that have unfortunately not happened for the Dallas Cowboys these past few seasons.
Two guys I thought they were going to hire for sure. One was Deion Sanders, who's a
Mhm.
former Cowboy. I thought
Mhm.
he would get it. And then the other one was the Eagles offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, the former NFL quarterback and former offensive coordinator with the Cowboys. I really thought either Moore or Sanders were going to get that job.
I didn't think either one of them would get that job just for the sheer being. I don't know if Kellen Moore would want to come back to the Dallas Cowboys, especially with the success that he's having right now with the Eagles. And probably we'll see what his other options are. And as for Coach Prime, I know that his name circulated around a lot with his sons now going into the NFL Combine with a chance to go to the NFL. You got recent Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter as well. Uh, with everything that's happening for the University of Colorado's football team, the recruits that they have came in, uh, especially with the NIL and the opportunity for Colorado, kind of a way to run it back, if not better. Um, I know that Coach Prime is that type of person where he's not going to just because his sons are gone that he was going to run away from a challenge of pretty much this is going to be a brand new mostly brand new Colorado football team. So I'm glad that he is staying put in Colorado because of the fact of all, the students that are coming in, the transfers that he has coming in, this quarterback that, has been hyped up and talked about that's basically taking over from a very successful Shador Sanders. So I'm glad neither one of them came to the Dallas Cowboys. We're just gonna have to see how it works out with Brian Schottenheimer and what he's gonna do, in the fall with this team.
Absolutely. And speaking of coaches, too, Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell were hired the same time in 2021. And I know Philadelphia, his first year, he was 9-8, and fans wanted him fired. And even last year, they wanted him gone. And even this year, and I know with the Lions, when they did hire Dan Campbell his first year, I heard people wanting him fired too. When you hire a head coach, especially with the Eagles, who were kind of in a rebuild after that Super Bowl win, and the Lions, well, they kind of been in rebuild for many decades. You can't hire somebody and expect them to turn it around in 1 year. To
Mhm,
me, when you hire a new head coach, you got to give them at least 3 years, in my opinion.
mhm. Like, you think, Chris, in some aspects, you are getting what these teams are doing is that they are hiring, they believe, the best man to do the job. That's everywhere. That's NHL, that's MLB, that's MLS, that's tennis coaches, that's everywhere. The NCAA's basketball, football. You are hiring the best person in your opinion to go and lead the team to a very successful season and beyond for it to be the ultimate goal, which is the championship in that respectable sport. That's anywhere. And so you will get, unfortunately, like as we just said, Gerard Mayo, that literally was one and done, and it was an unfortunate failure there. And then you have D'Amico Ryans, who was a brand new head coach, going with a rookie at the time, CJ Stroud, and literally not a lot of people were buying that tandem because they both were brand new in the aspect of what they were in. CJ Stroud coming from, Heisman Trophy finalist, very good combine, drafted in the first round to the Texans in pick number 2. And then you have D'Amico Ryans, who was very respected in the NFL all the way around in this opportunity of being a head coach and surprised a lot of people in that first season because they did very well and went to the postseason recently here with the cards that were dealt because they dealt with injuries. Be one of them massive injury to Tank Dell and then the Stephon Diggs. So you have that aspect, and then you have like we just said there with some other coaches. So it's going to be where everything is about chance, everything is about risk. Who's going to be that person that could possibly lead the team to having a successful season? It sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Absolutely, and the Texans do have a better roster than the Patriots. But as for Mike Rabel, I believe they signed him to a 3-year deal. And the
Mhm.
thing is, he's got Drake May in place.
He
And
does.
I don't. And Jarrett Mail did not start him right away, which might have been a mistake. But
Mhm.
to me, it depends on your roster. You're right. DeMarco Ryans is a good young coach, and he had a decent roster in place for that success. Every city, every franchise is different. So who knows what will happen in New England next year if they can even get into the playoffs. I still think they're a work in progress.
Right, they are a work in progress, and I think they are. I think, another you got these teams that just, replaced their coaches, and here's the thing that I will say this, and I know we'll move on to your whatever you have for this next topic.
Yeah,
Pete Carroll coming back into the league at 73
73.
years young, and then you look at the AFC West, and you see the loaded amount of experience out of those 4 gentlemen, Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, and oh my god, why am I going blank on one? Um, ah, he'll come back to me. But you look at if you look at the AFC West. Oh, I'm
Sean
sorry, Sean
Payton.
Payton. There we
Yeah,
go. And all of them have been to a Super Bowl. 3 of them have won a Super Bowl. One of them is mad successful. I mean, we obviously know who that is, and that's Andy Reid. And so you look at, that world of experience over there, and going back to Pete Carroll, I'm kind of glad that he's back in the league. How long he will be with the Raiders and how quickly they want him to turn
the Raiders
the
are.
team around. They probably want him to turn the team around rather quickly because he's 73. You see what I'm saying? So, that window for the Raiders taking that huge risk is gone smaller. Yes, he is that person that will bring a team together. He is a great developer. He literally has that, exuberant ball of energy for someone in his early 70s. So, that is going to be an interesting watch, especially that conference or that division for sure with the AFC West. But again, just looking at all the new hires on the different teams that is just happening, I look at this and I see that some of these teams, yes, are they going to struggle? But I look at, and I'll go right into that. Detroit Lions fans were very upset that Ben Johnson went to the Chicago
Chicago.
Bears. I said that he was going to go to the Chicago Bears. Many of them thought that he was going to go to the Saints, that he was going to get away from the whole drama that was the rumor going around saying GM Ryan Poles didn't want him there because of whatever that was happening and his job being in jeopardy or whatever the case is. I love that he is over there. Tell you why. Because of the fact now you're looking at the NFC North. All 4 of these coaches are very talented. One of them being brand new now. And so they have quarterbacks that already have been established. He is going into a situation where this is a young offensive core. This is a young quarterback in Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is beyond excited because now you have somebody that's going to actually take the time to mold you into the finest looking, best. I see it as like, when you making a clay pot and, it's just a lump of clay and then you form it into this beautiful vase. It's exactly what he's going to do and try to do with Caleb Williams. And the NFC North just got a little bit more competitive than it did this past offseason.
Absolutely. And before we wrap this up on the coaches, I wanted to get your thoughts quickly just on Mike Tomlin because I see some similarities to Tomlin and Andy Reid. Andy
Mhm,
Reid, at his time in Philadelphia, it was time for him to go. The Eagles
mhm.
needed a new, fresh start, and Andy Reid found the perfect spot in Kansas City. Tomlin's still a very good head coach, but I just feel right now he's been their coach since what, 2008? It
Mhm.
might be better for Tomlin to move to another franchise, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on Tomlin, if you think you see some similarities to him and Andy Reid's situation in Philadelphia at the end.
I do, and I'll say this, that right now the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mike Tomlin at the helm, again, he is no nonsense. He expects his players to play well. He expects them to have great character, and he commands the control of the locker room. The problem is there are little pinholes in that balloon, and the air is deflating a little bit faster than previous. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the waiting game to see once this Super Bowl is all said and done, They're going to look at their options and see who can come into their organization possibly, this is my opinion, and make it and have a fresh start. I just think this Mike Tomlin thing is in limbo right now because the Steelers again have been stuck in neutral for a while,
Yeah.
and they've had a ton of talent come in and come out and everything else. You got your Russell Wilson situation that, he's still getting paid by the Broncos. He had this 1 year in the Steelers. Are you going to, attain them, or are you going to move on to Justin Fields? Or are you going to move Justin Fields to a backup and get somebody else in quarterback? They've already had to deal with so many quarterbacks that have been filtered through, a Mason Rudolph, a Kenny Pickett. So that's
Mitch Travinsky for a year.
right. Mitch Trubisky. So that's something that they're going to have to deal with, but it's going to be a matter of, do they move on from Tomlin? Do they get somebody like, I'm just going to throw a name out there, like a Cliff Kingsbury, who's already been a head coach and was there for the Arizona Cardinals? Are they looking at different options between both of these teams again when the Super Bowl is done, and then make their move from there? It would not surprise us, Chris, if we get a breaking news in the next several weeks that they have relieved him of his duties and they have moved on to somebody else. Nobody should be shocked if that happens. Um, it'll be interesting and intriguing if they decide to keep Tomlin, but possibly make it be where, okay, we're going to keep you. We believe, what you're saying and how you're going to, formate this team and turn it around. We got the combine coming up in the draft, but this is going to be it. Like, it's either win or bust for the Steelers. So either way, this is going to be an interesting storyline either way in the next several weeks. If the when the news comes out, not if, when the news comes out about what moves the organization is going to make.
All right. Well, let's get to your Detroit Lions. Thoughts on your 2024 Detroit Lions franchise record-setting regular season, and unfortunately, they playoffs just didn't work out. But just quick thoughts on this 2024 team that went 15-2, and first time they were the number one seed ever in the NFC.
I mean, you already summed it up, pretty much. For anybody that thinks that this was a dismal season, yes, it ended very quickly, unfortunately, in the postseason, and it was disappointing and it was heartbreaking. I would still say the heartbreak was from last year, that second half against the 49ers, and just ended in a thud when it was one win away from the Super Bowl. That would be the ultimate disappointment for me, in my opinion, this one being a close second. To anybody that thinks that this was a disappointing season, must have not paid attention to Detroit Lions football, because as you stated beautifully, a 15-2 season, I would have never ever imagined that with this team. I knew that they were going to make the postseason, but that cards that they were dealt with 20 some odd people on the injury report, we lost several
It's too
key
much.
pieces. One of them being Aiden Hutchinson, week 5, right before my eyes here in Dallas at the Cowboys game for the season, and then just injury after injury. Kyle Pecco, Carlton Davis III, iffy on and off. Malawanfu, butchering his name, I apologize about that. But just, and then, Anzalone was out for a while, Rodrigo out for the season. So, just so many things that they had to deal with. This team was something special. And yes, in the hearts of so many people, this was a team of destiny to make it to the Super Bowl. I'm a type of person that will look at one game at a time. I don't look at the end result.
Yeah.
If it comes, it comes. But, I look at who the next opponent is that next week, or if, we have a bye, or whatever the case is. So they had a very, very good season. The pieces that were put together, the next man up philosophy was definitely used for all the people that were hurt. Um, the offense was very good, very, very good. I won't say great, just because I think of a few games in the regular season where it could have been better, i.e., the Houston Texans game, where Jared Goff had to make the adjustments mentally, especially for throwing 5 interceptions. Um, and I will say this: I give this team an A minus B plus for the record setting, the team coming together, the cards that they were dealt with. Um, they just made things happen. Chris. They made the adjustments. They had to, because literally this team was on a path to have, and again, going back to the NFC North, to have it come down to the final game of the season between the Vikings and the Lions, where all the other divisions were locked up of who won the division, who's going to the wild card, who's in the postseason. The NFC North, again, and I will say this, and going into next year is still going to be tough because of these four teams. And it would not surprise me again if it gets down to the final play or the final game of the season. Now, looking past this and going into the 2025 season, the Lions have got a very, very tough road schedule. Like,
They're
it is
playing and they're
insane. At Eagles,
yes,
at Bengals,
and
at
Buffalo.
Rams,
Is it Buffalo
at
too?
Kansas City.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's tough.
Yeah. And then you obviously got your at Green Bay, at Bears, and at Minnesota, just to name a few. So the stakes are high for this team going into 2025. Could they repeat the 15-win season? Possibly. But there's going to have to be a lot of not injuries.
And that's an X factor. That goes X factor for every team in football. You just don't know. You just don't know when you're going to get injured.
You don't know. And it's just, Chris, it was just so wild because the way that they were playing and the way they made adjustments, especially on offense, the run game of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and then you had intertwined, Tim Patrick, Jamison Williams, Amara St. Brown, Sam Laporta, utilizing those weapons on and off, but just definitely that run game. Like, that run game was just something special, especially in the adjustments that they did make, unfortunately, when David Montgomery went down towards the end of the regular season, and still were able to make things happen. This is going to be interesting to watch what Brad Holmes and crew is going to do in the off season to keep the foot on the gas, so to speak, because these teams in the NFC North, as well as different opponents that they're going to play, 2025 is going to be an interesting season of these NFL teams. And number one, who wants it badly? And number two, what homework did you do during the off season to make your team accelerate from what they were to being, the best? And Kansas City is that example of keeping the foot on the gas. Because and I know we're going to talk about that in a moment, but just they're one of those teams that's an example of you can repeat success. And so that's the thing that I want to say, the Lions fans, that success can be repeated. I mean, you can't just be, this was the year, now it's going to be all over with. Trust the process with the coaches and what Brad Holmes and the Ford family is doing with this team.
Well, look at the Eagles last year. They started out 10-1, and then they melt down. They fired the entire coaching staff except for Sirianni, and he was on the hot seat this year. And they got the best free agent signing in the history of the NFL in Saquon Barkley. And then the draft in Detroit, getting Mitchell and DeJean and Jalen Carter and Nolan
DeJean
Smith
is gold. And anybody that knows Iowa knows how to produce some key players, man. They do. I mean, if you want to talk about tight end university, they pump them out of the Big Ten. They really do. Wide receivers and tight ends.
And cornerbacks.
And corners.
Yeah, corners.
100% agree.
Yeah. So like you said, if you have a good offseason, a good draft, and add maybe a free agent or two, it really can turn your team around. And
I'm impressed with their season. I'm very happy with the Lions overall. I really am.
Yes, absolutely. And look at the Commanders. They turned it around. Well, let's give them credit too. I know a lot of Lion fans are disappointed in losing to Washington, but Washington was 12-5. They are the last team to beat the Eagles. And nobody gave them a chance in Detroit. And Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and Jaden Daniels, who I met in Detroit, he is one of the nicest young men. And even though I'm an Eagles fan, I never expected them to do this well this year, but I
Mhm.
think they should get credit for what they did in 1 year.
Oh, 100%. To have, again, a rookie quarterback, the early season dealing with a rib injury, had 3 games where he did a walk-off. You know what I'm saying? And, utilizing his weapons that he has, Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz, uh, and that was a moment that he and the former player, the players that he played with his former team, the Eagles, that was a moment. And I love how each one of them, like, literally came and just, hugged him and greeted him and everything else. And Philadelphia loves them some Zach Ertz. And then you had scary Terry McLaurin,
Yep.
so that though that right there, and just some more core pieces that Washington is the team of now. And Washington Commanders fans should feel really good going into 2025-2026 season. They should. You have a great coach in place, Dan Quinn, and finalist for Coach of the Year. And the rest of that coaching core, never, you don't know if they, again, Steelers may go and snatch, someone up from there. But uh, what Washington did the regular season, and put a surprise on the Detroit Lions, and then just basically went into the NFC Championship with everything that they emptied, just that they met a juggernaut of the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a team to look out for sure. And Commanders fans should feel really, really good about what's to come with Jaden Daniels and the rest of this team.
Overall assessment of the job done by the entire coaching staff of the Lions, and just quick thoughts again on Ben Johnson going to Chicago. Was his biggest strengths as offensive coordinator, and same with Aaron Glenn going to the New York Jets.
Well, I'll start with Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn had to make a lot of adjustments. A lot. We lost three-quarters of our defense. It was next man up. To the point where I had to Google some of these players that we had, because I never heard of them, because they had to step into big shoes to fill, and to fill in on that defense. Every single week, every single time, Aaron Glenn, and literally he was one of the ones where Lions fans was getting frustrated with him because the defense wasn't doing what they're supposed to. Our secondary was getting torched. Darian Arnold, Kirby Joseph, all of that. I mean, literally was getting torched, and or keeping the games close, or doing some ridiculous stuff to give us penalties. Um, he's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see what he does with the Jets, and what he's gonna do with a 41 years young Aaron Rodgers, if they're going to move in a different direction. What he's going to do there, he already said in his press conference, he's going to hand over the defense to somebody else and focus on the task that he's got hired at, which is his head coaching. And this is a reunion for him because they drafted him in '94. So basically it's like a homecoming for Aaron Glenn. So we'll see how he goes with the Jets. I don't know if they're going to have a successful season, a winning season to lead them to the postseason, but I think that they will get more wins than they currently had this past season. But it all depends on who they get in the draft, and who they're going to have at quarterback is the big question. You got some great talent that's still on that team, and we'll see how it goes. As far as Ben Johnson, real quick, again, I knew that he was going to go and stay in the NFC North. I love this move. I love that it's getting the Lions fan base fired up. Yes, he deserved the assistant coach of the year for sure, and I'm glad that he got that award, because I mean the trick plays, him going into his bag and pulling out some stuff for the offense, the run game. How he developed Jared Goff for sure, along with Mark Brunell. But that whole entire offensive scheme that happened throughout the season, with them just having two losses, a close one to the uh, the the Buccaneers, and then a very tough one against a very loaded Buffalo Bills team. Both of these losses at home, which is ironic. All of these losses that the Lions had is at home. None of them were on the road. So the cards that they dealt with pieces literally depleting off of defense, they were able to handle what they handled on the road. Absolutely impressive. So I'm happy for Ben Johnson. It's going to be tough in the NFC North, especially for the Lions to run it back. It's going to be tough, but I love the competitiveness that's going to come out of the NFC North. Kevin O'Connell already established with the Vikings and the job that he has done. Uh, you know,
And
there
Matt
in Matt
LaFleur with the
LaFleur.
Packers. And
Yeah,
they're a good team. Do you know the
very good
Eagles?
team.
You
Very
know
good
the
team.
the Eagles had to play 3 very good teams: Green Bay, the Rams, and Washington. 3 very
They're
good
not
quarter.
no slouches, and I wish
No.
people would see that they were not slouches at all. They're very good. 2
Yep.
of them established teams, 1 up and coming, and that's Jaden
Yep.
Daniels and this Washington Commanders team. So, it is very good. But I feel strongly about this team, and I trust Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and what they have done to get the right pieces, the right fit with this team. Each year, the Lions have progressed. They haven't degressed. It's something
No.
that we haven't seen in a very long time to go from 3 wins to 7 wins to 9 wins
To 15.
to now,
To
this right
15.
here was 15. I mean, you have to appreciate the job that they are doing and they continue to do. So, I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in store and free agency as well as obviously the combine and obviously the NFL draft.
I'm going to reword this question for you. It was originally who should the Lions bring in to replace Johnson and Glenn, but it's been reported. It's only been reported that John Morton is going to be their new offensive coordinator. He was Denver's pass game coordinator under Sean Payton, and the
Mhm.
Lions' new defensive coordinator looks like it's going to come in house from Calvin Shepard, who's been their linebackers coach since 2021. It's not been confirmed, but if those are the two gentlemen, what are your thoughts on them?
Kelvin Shepard is confirmed. He is going to
Okay.
be the defensive coordinator, which I appreciate. I like that pick. Um, the intensity that he has and the fieriness he has, we saw shades of that in Hard Knocks. So, he has a rapport with the players. They respect him. They literally will run through a brick wall for him. So, to see what he's going to do and bring to the table is going to be absolutely amazing. John Morton, I mean, what else can you say? You're coming from a Denver Broncos team with a brand new quarterback of Bo Nix, and it was successful.
Yes.
So they are a team on the rise too. And so Denver Broncos fans have got to feel real good about that. But I'm glad. And he's already did a stint with the Lions in 2022, 2021, 2022. I believe he was there for a small moment of time, Michigan native. So to have him on board as the offensive coordinator is pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do.
Are the fans disappointed that Robert Slay, who was fired by the Jets and who's a Detroit, Michigan native, went back to San Francisco as their defensive coordinators?
I would say in part a little bit, but not surprising. Because I think that he wouldn't have gone back to the 49ers had that whole and I feel that it was kind of grimy the way it went down. That whole thing with the Jacksonville Jaguars with the coach that they just recently hired who was committed to the Buccaneers and then ghosted them and then ended up doing a second interview quietly and now he is their head coach at Jacksonville. That whole entire thing that went down because people thought Robert Saleh was going to go and be the head coach there, possibly. So, but homecoming reunion for the 49ers. I believe the Lions have them also on their schedule as well. So it's good that they have him back, and that should give a boost of confidence for that 49ers team.
Okay, well, let's get to the NFC and championship games. What were your thoughts on? We'll start with the AFC championship game. Just thoughts on the Kansas City Buffalo game and then the Philly Washington game.
Oh my dear Lord. Okay, let me just say this. Let me say this, y'all. Oh my goodness. Buffalo Bills fans, you have a great quarterback. Okay. You have a great quarterback. It is unfortunate right now that his daddy is named Patrick Mahomes the second in the postseason. Okay. Yes, you had that win during the regular season where you did beat them and thought that it's possibly going to be a slam dunk again. But at this particular moment in time, we have to realize that there is regular season Patrick Mahomes and there is playoff time Patrick Mahomes. That is two different people that the helm wearing number 15. Okay. The issue that I had with the Buffalo Bills is the opportunities that they had to move the ball. I just didn't understand that how on short yardage they could not move the ball, especially when it was a friggin' 1 yard. 3rd and 1, couldn't do it. 4th and 1 got stonewalled. It was just I didn't understand that. And then for Kansas City near the end of the game to get the ball back and you held them to 3 points and you had a minute 48, 45, 46-ish left on the clock and you were moving the ball and then you got stonewalled again and it was like 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8, 4th and forever, and then Dalton Kincaid couldn't make that catch. I just some of the decision making on going forward on short yardage or how the first 2 downs went. It was such a head scratcher. It was an opportunity for the Bills. The Bills had multiple opportunities to win this game, Chris. They had many chances to take the lead and keep the lead. The 2 failed 2-point conversions.
Yep.
There's at times where you just take the points, and there's at times where you just take the points.
Yep.
So I don't understand. I didn't understand the assessment there, but you got to look at this Kansas City Chiefs team. If they go in here, you mean they're repeating this and going back there 3 years straight, something that is just unthinkable of a team. If they go in there and win a 3rd straight title, you
They're a
have
dynasty.
to put Patrick Mahomes in the GOAT conversation of one Thomas Brady.
I still say Brady is the number 1 guy because he's got 7
Oh,
rings.
he does.
But
But
Mahomes would be up there.
he's up there for the sheer fact, slightly up there, because he's doing this and he's not even 30. He's not
But
even 30.
that's
And
true.
to pump out all these championships under the age of 30 is quite impressive in itself. So is he greater than Tom Brady? I don't want nobody coming after me, but no, he is not. Tom Brady, the GOAT, 7 rings,
Yep.
literally a legacy, got championships on
Yep.
2 teams. But
That term gets too used too often. GOAT.
it does. I was
It's
going to
like
say that.
Joe Montana to me, 4 for 4 in Super Bowls.
Mhm.
Terry Bradshaw, 4 for 4 in Super Bowls. It's just the term gets used too much. I think in this era, he's probably the greatest, but I just hate that term. And the thing is, he's got to face the Philadelphia Eagles again, and this isn't going to be a cakewalk for Kansas City. And there's no guarantees this is going to happen. And I remember the Niners; they had a chance to three-peat, and they
Mhm.
lost the NFC Championship game to the Giants in 1990, and the Giants were underdogs. So I, as an Eagles fan, love the fact that the Eagles are underdogs again, and all the
What
pressure
do
is going to
y'all
be on Kansas City.
was it a 1.5 point?
Yep, and I'm fine with it. They can put it up to
Mhm.
5 or 6 because the last time the Eagles won a Super Bowl, they were heavy underdogs against Brady
Oh,
and
big
Belichick and the
time.
Patriots. Yeah,
Yes.
so to me, I'm fine with Philadelphia being the underdogs, and maybe Detroit might be better off as that too because it's a whole different story when you're considered heavy favorites to win a game. So
Mhm.
sometimes being the underdog's better.
Sometimes it is, and sometimes being the favorite is better. It's all about who has the intensity to make it happen, who has an intensity and that edge to beat that team, to make the plays, to be smart with the ball, to hold on to the ball, to minimize the penalties, and then make sure that you are taking the points. If
Yeah.
you were struggling as the Bills, if you're struggling from 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal, as you did throughout the game, where in the audacity would you go and try to make it, go for 2? You had been struggling from short yardage throughout the game. But again, it was risk, not a whole lot of reward on their end. They fought back, they tied the game, and then the defense couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the strong arm of Patrick Mahomes, a mobile pocket in the pocket. He's mobile, when he's wide open,
Yep.
and they were able to give it to Harrison Butker, who, kind of in a way that was a walk off because the Bills did nothing with the ball and got themselves stuck. So, but in the AFC, or sorry, the NFC, um, again, like you said, the Washington Commanders is the team of now, and they faced a juggernaut, and and it was cool to see Will Shipley get one.
Yes.
That was really cool, and how hyped Saquon was
Yeah.
uh when he got his first scoring touchdown. So that was pretty cool. But this Philadelphia Eagles team is not the Philadelphia Eagles team of old when Jalen Hurts had led them his first time in his career. This is going to be a very tight game, in my opinion. It's not going to be a blowout by any means. Basically, it's going to be chess checkers. This is going to be very tactical on both ends because you got Nick Sirianni, who does take risks, but he has pretty much really heavily relied on his players to do the talking.
Yep.
And they have, especially Saquon Barkley, who,
Absolutely.
if anybody
MVP.
thinks
MVP.
that he is not MVP caliber, you need to never watch football again, because he has proved time and time and time and time and time and time again through all of these games,
Big time
literally
player.
jumping over humans backwards. he is that guy, record setting runs and touchdowns. You put him in the category of an Eric Dickerson and a Barry Sanders.
He reminds me of Barry Sanders.
I do too. Yeah,
He
yes.
does.
Yes.
He does. And you know what gets me is quarterbacks are great and stuff, but this whole NFL thing, it has to be a quarterback. And the thing is, Saquon Barkley comes through in the clutch. Josh Allen, no disrespect to Bills Mafia that are watching or listening to this show, but Josh Allen is not a clutch player. It's been proven. Saquon Barkley, every playoff game has impacted this game. And Washington, by the way, Washington got off to a good start in this game. They had the ball 18 plays, 70 yards, and they ended up kicking a field goal. Eagles get the ball, very first play, Saquon Barkley, touchdown. That basically summed it up right there.
That set the tone. That set the tone for the rest of the game. And people are saying, well, you got tons of time left. When that tone is established and they did 1 to 2 plays and he took off, did a spin move and kept going, it's going to be a long afternoon for you, especially he gets open. And it was a long afternoon, unfortunately, for the Commanders, because the second half was just ugly.
And Jalen Hurts, who's got a knee injury right now, 20 for 28.
Play like it.
20 for 28.
Play like it.
246, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, no fumbles, 3 rushing touchdowns. And then we talked about this before we went live. Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts get too much criticism. They're both great athletes, and Lamar is going to get his championship one day. And I'm really hoping, as an Eagles fan, Jalen Hurts gets a Super Bowl win, because I think it would cement his career as an elite quarterback. Because all I hear is he's not Josh Allen, he's not this, he's not that. All he does is win, and it's a team game too. He's a big part of that team, as much as Barkley and as the receiving core as well. I'm really, and Hurts in Super Bowl 57, by the way, outplayed Mahomes in Super Bowl 57. Obviously, he didn't win, unfortunately, but he can play in the big games at the big moments. It's been proven.
Exactly. And so this one, like I said, is going to be where it's going to be very close between both of these teams. And again, it's about who is going to have, I think wholeheartedly, who's going to end up having the ball last. And make it be effective. That team will win the game.
Quick thoughts on the defensive coaches matchup. Obviously, you got Andy Reid, the former Eagles coach, against Nick Sirianni, who was on the Chiefs coaching staff at one point. But you're going to have Vic Fangio, who's done a wonderful job in his first year in Philly, going ahead against Steve Spagnuolo, obviously probably the best defensive coordinator in the National Football League right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not be surprised if this is a low-scoring game. These two are absolutely wizards when it comes to defense, and their teams have proven it. If it ends up being a low-scoring game, somewhere in the 20s, possibly, is because these two masterminds are doing whatever they can to stop the run on offensively on both sides of the ball. That's it. That's nothing else to be said.
And here's a fun fact: the Philadelphia Eagles' first Super Bowl appearance was 44 years ago at the Superdome in New Orleans.
Wow.
And yeah, and
There you go, and it
also
comes right
this
back around.
And I also like the fact that it's at the Superdome because weather won't be a factor and they'll be playing
Mhm.
on perfect turf. That
There you
Super Bowl
go.
2 years ago was against Kansas City. I'm not making excuses. That field at what's it called? State Farm Stadium in Arizona. The
Mhm.
field conditions were unacceptable. So I think it could be a low scoring game. I agree with you, but I have a feeling it's going to be a track meet. I really do because
It really is.
I think the Eagles have gotten their passing attack going, and I think it's gonna. You're right. I agree with you. I think it's gonna come down to whoever has the ball last. Let's hope the officials don't play an impact in this game. Let's just
Mhm.
hope the players decide it. Quick prediction: who do you see winning and your MVP?
Uh, well, here you go. I will give you this right now. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Really?
This is the time where the Eagles have worked and continue to work and continue to improve on their pass rush. They have Saquon Barkley, who in my mind should be the MVP. I know that in a previous live that I did, I said that the one that could win the MVP, it came down to the Ravens and the Bills. But I think that we continue to put the MVP always in a quarterback category and not look at the other potential talents that are not quarterbacks, a Derrick Henry, a Saquon Barkley. Kind of do that with a Heisman Trophy when it comes to college. We always make it be the quarterback and not about the rest of the cast that, literally work their tails off to help their team accelerate to wins. It's going to be a very close one. I think that the MVP will end up being Jalen Hurts. I have this game scored 28-24.
I have it 34-27 Philadelphia, and I think Saquon will be the MVP. But an X factor for the Eagles in this game, I believe, is going to be Devontae Smith. He had
Yes,
2
I
years
didn't mention
ago
him.
2 years ago at Arrowhead, he had 6 catches for 99 yards. The only concern I have for the Eagles is Jake Elliott, their longtime kicker, had been Mr. Reliable, but this year
Mhm.
he's missed a lot of extra points, and he's 1 for 8 on 50-yard plus field goals, and I think Kansas City has the advantage with special teams in Matt Ariza and Harrison Butker. So I'm just hoping it doesn't come down to special teams or the officials, but I think the Eagles are going to win this game 34-27.
The defense has to do a good job to do whatever they can to keep Patrick Mahomes and that crew out of the red zone or the opportunities for Harrison Butker to kick because Harrison Butker can kick literally from everywhere. He reminds me of a Justin Tucker, but in a Chiefs uniform. He's very consistent, very reliable. You don't want to give him that opportunity, especially if you're the Eagles defense. You want to do, like I said, everything you can to not have them get the opportunities to have the ball last and to make it be where, yes, you keep them out of the red zone, but Harrison Butker is going to connect from wherever yardage he's at. That is
And
going to be,
finally,
like you said, the X factors of Devontae and Cooper DeJean.
Jajena and Quinion Mitchell,
Yes.
who they drafted from Toledo. I think those rookie cornerbacks are going to be huge in this game. And I'm going to be honest, if the Eagles win the coin toss, they normally always defer to the second half, but
Mhm.
I'd rather see the offense on the field first. I want to see the Eagles jump ahead of the Chiefs because Kansas City is not, most teams are not as good as when they're chasing. So I really like to see the
The
Eagles
Chiefs are
take that ball first.
strategic. They are very
Yes.
strategic when it comes to them scoring ahead of time. I mean, Patrick Mahomes utilizes his weapons, and Travis Kelsey in the postseason is starting to cook. I know before then people were concerned about him and then trying to utilize his off the field things and who he's dating and all that and saying that it's distraction. It has not been a distraction. He has been the Travis Kelsey that I saw several years ago, if not when they played, it was the what they call it, the Kelsey Bowl,
Oh, yep.
between both runners. So he's been very focused. I think, believe, correct me if I'm wrong, did he score a touchdown in the last game or was it the previous? Um,
I think it was the previous, but I'm
previous
gonna be
game. So
but
people
I'm
can't sit there and say that he is not focused. So that is
yeah.
going to be another challenge for for the Eagles to stifle him as well.
I do believe, in my opinion, this is gonna be, Travis Kelce's last game. I do believe this is gonna be
Really?
it for him. I have a feeling he's gonna retire. This is gonna be his last game.
Oh, wow.
Just my gut feeling, I might be wrong, but I have a feeling, and I know a lot of people in Philly are like, "Oh, Jason Kelsey retired early too soon," but Cam Jordan's has done a great job. I'm not saying he's as good as Jason Kelsey, but you
Mhm.
just never know, and the Eagles did have to replace Fletcher Cox too. But an X factor for the Eagles, I think, is going to be the big nose tackle out of Georgia, Jalen Carter. He is a monster. They didn't
Yes.
have him 2 years ago in Super
Yeah.
Bowl 57. And I think it's going to come down to the Eagles' offensive line and defensive lines. I think which lines outperform the other team's lines, I think that's going
Mhm.
to impact this game too, in my opinion.
Agreed. 100% agree.
And finally, we're going to wrap this up. Where can my audience follow you on your social media and the best way of contacting you? And do you have any upcoming media projects you'd like to share here?
Oh, thank you very much for having me on the show. I truly do appreciate it. I am on X at Lovely Marisa T. I have a Facebook page, Heard That with Marisa Tigney, for everybody to follow. I post updates on there and videos and breaking news that's happening in the sports world. I am on Twitter. Actually, that was my Twitter, at Lovely Marisa T. I am on Instagram, Marisa underscore Tigney underscore podcast. I am on TikTok, the same exact name, Marisa underscore Tigney underscore podcast. I have a YouTube channel, Heard That with Marisa Tigney podcast. The show will be returning February 4th. Finally,
Awesome.
after so many different things that I have going on in radio and television and all that. And now I have my show getting ready to come back. So look forward to doing that and dropping episodes that's available on Spotify as well as Apple. There are classic and vintage ones that are available right now. I talked to previous sports reporters, journalists, former athletes, current athletes. And it's just such a thrill and a pleasure to be talking to you and being back on your show, Chris. So I truly do appreciate this opportunity and good luck to your Eagles on Super Bowl 59.
Well, thank you so much. And any chance that you're on Blue Sky? I just joined Blue Sky
Yes,
recently.
yes, I am on Blue Sky. They can look it up. I'm trying to do better on Blue Sky, ladies and gentlemen. I really am. So I am on Blue Sky as well. They can pull up my name. Uh, they can pull up Marisa Tigney. They'll see the Heard That logo, but I am on mtigney dash podcast dot bsky dot social. So I am on Blue Sky as well.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here today, Marissa. Thank you so much, and continued success. And you have an open invite to come back on my show again in the future as well.
Thank you. And Detroit Lions fans, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Absolutely. And the Lions are at Lincoln Financial Field next year too, so I'm looking forward to the Lions and Eagles.
They are, yes.
I was hoping it would happen this year, but it definitely will happen in 2025, and maybe
Mhm.
it'll happen twice in the playoffs too.
There you go. You never know. Sky's the limit. I appreciate this time. Appreciate my team. One pride. Go Lions.
And give me a little time this afternoon, and I'll send you the video, the audio, and do some reels and clips as well.
Okay, sweet.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you too.
All right, guys, that concludes season 9, episode 45, overall 485 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And also, guys, I have another show today, tonight at 6 o'clock, sponsored by BarryCullen.com and Wellington Brewery on Tuesday, January 28th, which is today, 6 p.m. tonight. I have Marissa Turton. She is the CFL coordinator of player and game stats, and she's a media personality as well. I want to say thank you again to my guest today, Marisa Tigney, a media personality and a radio personality, and a lifelong Detroit Lions fan, for coming on Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. show. And before you go, guys, I'm just going to play you a little clip of my thoughts of the Eagles win over the Commanders. And it's courtesy of my YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe and like notification to Chris Pomay live with CDP Sports Talk. I'm here with my Philadelphia Eagles game recap in their 55-23 win over the Washington Commanders in the NFC Championship game. So the Eagles advanced to the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years and their third appearance in 7 years. And the Eagles are going to be looking for their second ever Super Bowl championship coming up on Sunday, February 9th at the Louisiana Superdome against those Kansas City Chiefs. As for the Eagles, Washington had a good start in this game. Washington opened with the ball, had an 18-play drive for 65 yards, 8 minutes of the clock, but they couldn't get a touchdown. They had to settle for a Zane Gonzalez 46-yard kick. Eagles get the ball back. First play offensively, Saquon Barkley, the most valuable player in the National Football League and the best player in football, period, into discussion. 60-yard run, Eagles go up 7-3, and that really was kind of a turning point in that game. Washington did keep it close at one point, making it 14-12, but the Eagles capitalized on 4 Washington turnovers. Washington, who had not turned a ball over in their playoff run against Tampa Bay and Detroit, turned it over 4 times, 3 fumbles and 1 interception, and the Eagles scored 27 points off of it. The Eagles in the playoffs in 3 playoff games have taken away the ball 10 times, and they've turned it over 0. Jalen Hurts, the much maligned Jalen Hurts, thanks to Bills Mafia. Jalen Hurts, 20 for 28, 246 yards passing, 1 touchdown pass, no interceptions, no fumbles, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns. The Eagles set a couple records here. Most points ever scored in a conference championship game, scoring 55, surpassing Carolina's 49. And the Eagles tied in an NFL record set back in, I believe, the 1930s or 40s with 7 rushing touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, hat trick, and Will Shipley, their third-string running back, with a touchdown as well. Some key injuries in this game. Kenneth Gainwell left with a concussion, and Landon Dickerson left this game with a knee injury as well. But Jalen Hurts looked great. A.J. Brown had 6 big catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith had 45 yards in receptions. Dallas Goedert had 85 yards. So if this Eagles team gets their passing game going along with their running game, they're not going to be the Buffalo Bills or the Houston Texans. And I really think the Eagles are a better football team than the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm really looking forward to this rematch from 2 years ago on Sunday, February 9th. So again, Eagles win 55-23. Respect and credit to the Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels, Adam Peters. They did a great job getting this Commanders team to go 12-5. And going 2-1 in the playoffs. Washington is definitely a team on the rise for next year. As for the Eagles, they've got 2 weeks to prepare for Super Bowl 59 against the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch of Super Bowl 57. As always, go Birds, Eagles, Eagles. Chris, that was courtesy of my YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe and like notification. And thank you to everyone following me on YouTube. I'm over 311,000 views on YouTube as well. Again, I want to say thank you to my guest today, Marisa Tigney. She is a media personality, radio personality, and lifelong Detroit Lion fans for coming on. And I really appreciate Marisa coming on here today. She really knows the Detroit Lions as good as anybody. So thank you to her coming on. And I have another show tonight, guys, 6 p.m. with Marisa. Marisa Turton. Marisa Turton. I think I got it right. Marisa Turton. She is the player and game stats coordinator for the Canadian Football League. And she's also a professional sports media professional. And she has done some broadcasting on CJOB 680 in Winnipeg. So Marissa's going to come on tonight and talk about her schooling, how she got into media, and how she got involved with the Canadian Football League as well. And I met her this past summer at BMO Field for one of the Argonauts games as well. I want to say thank you again to Marisa Tigney for coming on. And thank you to everyone watching this live streamed and on audio platforms. And of course, I want to say thank you to my sponsors, Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership and Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon. And we'll see you back here tonight, 6 p.m. for another edition of Live CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, again brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet and Wellington Brewery. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you at 6 o'clock tonight for Season 9, Episode 46 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk